It's been a while since I've done one of these rant videos, but this has recently been annoying me and I felt like I should talk about it. So this year has been kind of a bittersweet year for Akira Toriyama fans because the sad news is the big man himself, the legend himself, passed away this year, but also some of his creations have received either anime adaptations or video game adaptations. For example, Sandland this year got both a video game adaptation and an anime adaptation available on Disney+. But his most popular creation, which is basically Dragon Ball, received two brand new additions, which is the Dragon Ball Sparking Zero game, which is the successor to the Budokai Tenkaichi series that many of us played as kids. I didn't play the Budokai Tenkaichi series. My favorite Dragon Ball game is Budokai 3, and you can fight me on that. But also we received a new anime, which is Dragon Ball Daima, which has input from Akira Toriyama himself, and it feels like he was more involved with Daima than he ever was with Dragon Ball Super. That's why in anticipation of these two things, I've been going through either Facebook groups or threads, I don't use Twitter, and trying to connect with people who enjoy these things. And one thing I have come across is that Dragon Ball Z fans are toxic. Right, before I go on to my rant, I want to address which group of Dragon Ball Z fans I'm actually talking about, because there are several different groups of Dragon Ball Z fans. First of all, you have fans like me who are basically casuals. We enjoy whatever we get from Dragon Ball, but it's not that deep for us. We enjoy what we can from it. We know where the flaws are, but it is not the greatest thing ever made on earth. I've watched many different animes, including Dragon Ball, and I enjoy it anytime there's new Dragon Ball content, except for Dragon Ball GT. I couldn't finish Dragon Ball GT. Like, my watching of Dragon Ball GT, especially towards the latter half, is through reels or shorts online. As well as Dragon Ball Super Heroes, which is not to be confused with Dragon Ball Super Hero, which is the adaptation of the card game. Look, it's fan servicey, but it's not really that well animated. It has moments which you can see on reels and shorts, but the series in itself is not great. So yeah, those two anime aside, I enjoy whatever Dragon Ball content I can get because I enjoy these characters and I enjoy being able to spend some time with them, and I like to see the cool new transformations. So yeah, casual Dragon Ball Z fans or casual Dragon Ball as a whole fans, this video is not for you. Now the second group I want to address are Akira Toriyama fans. They're not just fans of Dragon Ball, but they're fans of all of his works, whether it is Sandland, whether it is Dr. Slump, his other incredibly famous work, or whether it is his character designs for games like Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger and Dragon Quest. They enjoy content from Akira Toriyama, and similar to us Dragon Ball casuals, they enjoy whatever he gives them, and they know where the flaws are, and maybe it's not always perfect, but it's always nice to receive something from this legend. So these two groups are not really who I'm directing this video at, so if you find yourself falling into these two groups, you can either click away, but I would like you to stay around and watch me, grill the other remaining groups of Dragon Ball fans. So the group I mainly want to address are diehard Dragon Ball Z fans. Like, anything other than Dragon Ball Z pales in comparison to them. Whether it is the original Dragon Ball, whether it is GT, whether it is Super, whether it is other anime. Yes, they watch other anime, but for them, Dragon Ball is the greatest anime of all time. Trust me, I've watched many anime. Dragon Ball is incredibly influential and has a lasting impact on pop culture, but is not the greatest anime of all time. But it's still really good. But for these guys, it is top tier. Like, these are the guys, and I used to be in that camp like years ago before I got exposed to many more anime, but these are the guys like who go through and look for continuations to Dragon Ball GT, like Dragon Ball AF. Anyone remember that? Of course you guys do, because you are the ones going through it and finding this fanfic of Dragon Ball. But yeah, this video is to address you guys. And the other group that kind of falls into this are also people who don't watch any other anime except Dragon Ball. Like the previous group, they've watched other animes, they just think Dragon Ball is the best ever. This other group has only watched Dragon Ball. Nothing else. They will not give anime a chance, but Dragon Ball is special. And the final group that I want to address is a very strange group because it is people who watch Dragon Ball through Team 4 Star's Abridged series. Now, I've never really watched the Abridged series because I don't find myself being that interested in it, but these guys basically get their knowledge about Dragon Ball through the Abridged series and kind of take that as gospel, even though they really shouldn't. And even though the Abridged series is kind of a bit of a satire and just having a bit of fun, but these guys take it as gospel. So these three groups, these are the groups that I'm addressing. Because as I mentioned, this year Dragon Ball has had two big releases, that being Dragon Ball Sparking Zero and the Dragon Ball Daima anime. And these groups of people have been bitching a lot online, for lack of a better word. So the first thing I want to address is Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. It is the latest Dragon Ball game, and it is the successor to Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi 3, which came out years ago. And a lot of fans, including myself, couldn't wait to get their hands on this game and play this game because we've been waiting years. Like, my favorite Dragon Ball game is Budokai 3. I've never played the Tenkaichi series, but getting something that is close to that, it's something to look forward to. And this game does have its flaws. It has a bunch of flaws. I feel like sometimes the animation in the game could be better, especially when there is dialogue between characters. When characters are having conversation, they just use very lazy lip flaps. But also, there's a ton to love about this game. I think this game gives those people who have been waiting for that Budokai Tenkaichi experience exactly what they want. And yeah, you can complain about how online is shit. I don't play online because I don't have time and I haven't even completed like the story missions. But yeah, I get that there are problems with online, with people quitting and how it's not balanced. But the Dragon Ball Z universe is not supposed to be balanced. Goku is supposed to be one of the strongest characters. So yes, Goku in his most powerful form in Ultra Instinct is one of the most strongest characters on the game. Vegeta is one of the strongest. Jiren is one of the strongest. Beerus, Whis. Like, the strong characters will always be strong and the weak characters will be weaker. And that's why I feel like DP Battles Online is a bit more balanced, but I've not really played online. So for those who played online and had to deal with the toxicity online, hats off to you. But that's not what this video is about, because what this video is about is that during pre-release, when they were giving promotional footage and revealing all the characters that will be available in the game, I just saw a lot of bitching and complaining about the game. Like, the game hasn't even been released yet and there were so many complaints, and it's dumb complaints, because like, one of the biggest complaints I keep seeing online, especially in the groups where these Dragon Ball fans gather, is that Goku or Vegeta was not swole enough, was not big enough. Like, oh my god, look at his neck, it's not fucking exploding like he's on steroids. And they get mad at that, which is baffling to me. That and the constant complaining about how these designs weren't exactly the same as they were in the Dragon Ball Z anime, like how Super Saiyan 1 Goku in the game is kind of refined to his modern Super Saiyan look instead of looking like how he did in the anime, which is very different because it's a very different art style. But all this complaining, it seems like you don't really want to enjoy this game. You don't want this game to succeed. You don't want this game to let you have fun. Like, I get it if you want to complain about certain characters that aren't in the game because you want to play as characters that you've played in previous games but they're not here in this game. But complaining about such minor things and nitpicking and hating on it because it's not exactly everything you wanted, it feels like you are genuinely trying to stop yourself from having any fun. Like, do you have any fun in life at all? Whew, I was getting a bit too worked up back there, but I digress. These fans were praying for this game to fail because it wasn't exactly what they wanted. But honestly, that's not so bad because it is a vocal minority and it does feel like a vocal minority. But like, when the game came out, a lot of fans of the old Budokai Tenkaichi series had fun with this. Yes, the complaints about online being broken, but I think a lot of people had fun with this game. My biggest complaint is when it comes to Dragon Ball Daima. See, Dragon Ball Daima, as I mentioned, is the last Dragon Ball anime where Akira Toriyama had direct input before he passed away. And as I mentioned, it feels like, seeing the episodes of this anime, it feels like Akira Toriyama had a greater hand in Dragon Ball Daima than he ever did with Super. It feels like Super, and it definitely was like on Super. He was giving spark notes both to Toei and to Toyotaro and just like, do whatever you want, just follow this loose structure. Whereas with Dragon Ball Daima, it feels like he's not just inputting story beats, but I think he also inputs some character designs, which is, it's always great to get character designs from the great Akira Toriyama himself. So what do these groups of Dragon Ball fans have to say about Dragon Ball Daima? Well, once again, they're just bitching because Dragon Ball Daima kind of takes a plot thread from Dragon Ball GT, which is Goku in Dragon Ball GT was wished to be turned into a kid by Pilaf, and in Dragon Ball Daima there is a new Demon King that basically wishes that Goku and the entire gang of Z fighters and their allies are turned into kids. So you can see there are some similarities between the two. But just like with Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Daima kind of tries to harken back to the original Dragon Ball, and I feel like that's what Akira Toriyama has always wanted to go back to. If I'm not wrong, Akira Toriyama actually wanted to end Dragon Ball at the Cell Saga, because if you read the entirety of Dragon Ball, the Cell Saga feels like a perfect endpoint for the series. Goku passes away, he dies, and he passes on the mantle to Gohan, who becomes the strongest warrior on Earth and defeats Cell and saves the world. But I feel like pressure from fans and from his editor really pushed him to create the Buu Saga, where you can tell he was messing around, because the power scaling in the Buu Saga and just Majin Buu himself feels like such a character where Toriyama was not serious, but he was just pumping out whatever he could. But it kind of feels like Akira Toriyama has put in actual effort in Dragon Ball Daima in order to make sure that the original Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z kind of mesh together better, because some of the plot points and some of the lore that we get from Dragon Ball Daima is solely meant to do that, so that Dragon Ball flows into Dragon Ball Z a little better and some of the holes are kind of patched up. So what do these groups of fans have to complain about? Well, they're complaining about it just rehashing a plot point from GT. Yes, it does take kind of a plot point from GT, but it goes in a bit of a different direction. But then again, both of them kind of harken back to original Dragon Ball, which is something I appreciate. Akira Toriyama has always been a comedian, because when you read his manga, especially Dr. Slump, his first real big success as a mangaka, it is a gag manga. And it's supposed to be comedic, and he's always been a comedian at heart. Even early Dragon Ball, the original Dragon Ball, is comedic. It has comedic tones. And as I mentioned, it feels like Z was a bit of a step away. The latter half of the Dragon Ball manga, or Dragon Ball Z, is a step away from what Akira Toriyama really wants to do. So Dragon Ball Daima kind of harkens back to early Dragon Ball, which is something I feel like Toriyama really wanted to revisit. I don't think he really wanted to do something like Dragon Ball Super, and he just pumped that out because Toei wants more money. But these so-called Dragon Ball fans complaining about Goku being reversed into a child because it's just GT again and it sucks, even though the anime is actually really good. And the animation from Toei, who have been pretty bad with the Super adaptation, but have been really good now with One Piece and Dragon Ball Daima, have done a great job with the anime so far. And I'm really having fun, and I feel like fans like me and fans of Akira Toriyama are having fun with this anime, whereas these people are bitching because Goku got turned into a kid, and we are throwing back to a time of exploration, because in the original Dragon Ball it's about traveling and finding the Dragon Balls. That's why it's named Dragon Ball. And in Dragon Ball Daima it's kind of the same. We're exploring a new world, and we're also trying to collect new Dragon Balls in order to, one, change our heroes back into adults, and two, to stop the reign of this new Demon King who took over from Dabra. But all these people complaining just make me realize that these groups of people don't appreciate that this is the last contribution that we're gonna get from Akira Toriyama. And they're just looking to nitpick and whine and bitch about everything instead of just trying to have fun with it. Look, at the end of the day, what you enjoy is up to you. But trying to tear down something just because it's not for you is not a good look. You don't enjoy Daima, you didn't enjoy Super, you don't think Sparking Zero is a good game, that's great. And sure, you can complain about it, but the level of bitching and annoyance, it feels ungrateful that we get this much Dragon Ball content. Anyway, that's it from me. Please let me know what you think about these groups of Dragon Ball fans in the comment. Do you find them to be incredibly toxic? Do you find them to just be whiny little bitches? Please let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.